August 14th, 2016. 8 men stand on the Rio Olympic track, but only one begins in the most feared lane, Lane 8, running blind and far from the favorites, Wayde van Niekerk. In under 44 seconds, he won not just gold, he rewrote the limits of speed and shattered a 17-year-old world record from a position no champion had ever conquered. Was this the greatest 400-meter performance ever, or did it reveal something deeper about one of athletics' most unconventional champions? The answer begins long before that night, on the dusty fields of Cape Town. Cape Town, 1992. Wayde van Niekerk is born into a city where rugby rules, playgrounds, and track lanes twist through sun-baked fields. His earliest memories are of running, always running, sometimes with a ball tucked under his arm, sometimes chasing older cousins in dusty games that never seemed to end. Home was Kraaifontein, a working-class suburb north of the city, where his mother, Beyoncé Willemse, juggled jobs to keep his dreams within reach. She insisted on discipline and education, but never once told him to slow down. At Witzig Primary, Wayde's speed stood out, but it was his stamina that surprised coaches. He played fly half for school rugby, darting through defenders, and just as often lined up for local athletics meets, swapping boots for spikes. The Western Cape sports culture demanded versatility, rugby in winter, and athletics in summer, sometimes both in a single week. By his teens, he had moved to Paul Roos Gymnasium in Stellenbosch, a school steeped in rugby tradition and academic rigor. Here, the balance between endurance and raw speed sharpened. Track coaches noticed his unorthodox build for a sprinter, tall and lean, with a stride that seemed to float rather than pound the ground. But no one yet imagined that this combination, Cape Town's grit, rugby's toughness, and a sprinter's rhythm, would set the foundation for something the world had never seen. Ans Botha watched Wayde van Niekerk run with an eye sharpened by decades of coaching. Her approach rarely fit the mold of modern sprint science. She avoided computers and spreadsheets, relying on intuition and nightly reflection to adjust each day's training. For Botha, every athlete was an individual, not a data point. She listened to the body, not just the stopwatch. Music played from the sidelines as Wayde ran, each beat guiding his stride towards smoothness and relaxation. If tension crept in, a hop in the step, a tightening of the shoulders, she called him back. She insisted on flow and balance before speed. In 2013, Botha made a decisive change, moving Wayde from the 200 meters to the 400 meters. The goal was not just endurance. It was to build a rhythm and cadence that could survive the brutal final stretch of a one-lap race. She watched for inefficiencies, correcting them in real time, sometimes stopping a session if his form faltered. Her philosophy wove together speed, strength, and stamina like colored ribbons, knotting them at the finish. Under her guidance, Wayde learned to run fast without fighting himself, to trust his stride under pressure, and to carry that relaxed rhythm into the most unforgiving moments of competition. August 14th, 2016. The Olympic Stadium in Rio is a wall of noise, but out in Lane 8, Wayde van Niekerk is alone with the staggered curve and the clock. The gun sounds. His first step explodes off the blocks, reaction time 0.181 seconds, the quickest in the field. From the outermost lane, he is already at full throttle before most have settled into their drive phase. The opening 100 meters flash by in roughly 9.9 seconds, a split that would be competitive in a world-class 100-meter final. But this is only the beginning. By the 150-meter mark, van Niekerk is surging, arms loose, stride floating along the curve. He is running blind, with no sight of Karani James, LaShawn Merritt, or any of the other heavyweights tucked inside. Lane 8 offers no reference points, just empty track and the rising sound of the crowd. The first 200 meters are covered in approximately 19.5 seconds. That is not just fast, it is territory reserved for pure 200-meter specialists, not athletes expected to survive another half lap. This is where most 400-meter runners would hesitate, measuring effort to save something for the punishing final stretch. But van Niekerk is already gambling everything. The lane 8 assignment forces his hand. No one to chase, no one to pace against. He commits to a pace that defies conventional wisdom, banking on rhythm and relaxation drilled over years of Botha's training. The risk is clear: go out too hard, and the lactic acid will shut down the legs before the finish. But Van Niekerk's cadence stays smooth, his form unbroken. As the field enters the back straight, the split time graphic tells the story. Van Niekerk is ahead of world record pace, the clock ticking faster than anyone has seen at this point in a championship final. The gamble is working. The first half of the race is not just aggressive, it is revolutionary, a full-on assault that leaves the rest of the field scrambling to keep contact. Wayde is not racing the names behind him, he is racing the clock, and for the first 200 meters, the clock is losing. At the 300-meter mark, Wayde van Niekerk's lead is no longer theoretical, it is visible, measured in meters rather than fractions of a second. The rest of the field, stacked with Olympic and world champions, is locked in a desperate chase. Karani James and LaShawn Merritt, both runners with times under 44 seconds, are straining to close a gap that keeps widening. But Van Niekerk, still running blind from lane 8, has only the curve and the roar of the crowd as reference. His stride remains long and fluid, arms swinging loose, shoulders low. Each ground contact is brief, estimated at just over 1/10 of a second, evidence of the relaxation and rhythm drilled into his body by Botha's training. The clock ticks past 30 seconds. Most 400-meter runners at this stage are fighting the inevitable fade, legs tightening as lactic acid floods muscle. Yet Van Niekerk's cadence hardly falters. His split at 300 meters is close to 29.5 seconds, a number that matches some of the fastest pure 300-meter specialists in history. In the final straight, the difference becomes dramatic. Where others begin to tie up, Van Niekerk's form remains almost unchanged. The biomechanics tell the story: minimal vertical bounce, quick turnover, and a posture that does not collapse under fatigue. Competitors are now running for silver. The camera captures the margin, a full 0.73 seconds ahead of James at the finish, the largest gap in an Olympic 400-meter final since the 1960s. Karani James later said that he just would not slow down. That relentless velocity sustain is what sets this race apart. Van Niekerk later said he was running blind the whole way, that he thought someone was going to catch him, and that the uncertainty gave him motivation to keep pushing. The tape arrives, but Van Niekerk's mechanics never break. He crosses in 43.03 seconds, a world record, arms raised in disbelief. Behind him, the stagger unwinds and the graphic freezes the margin, a gulf that redefines what is possible from the outermost lane. For a moment, the world sees not just a new record, but a technical revolution built on endurance, relaxation, and the ability to hold speed when others cannot. This is the performance that cements Van Niekerk's reputation as the rarest of hybrids, a sprinter whose final 100 meters are as strong as his first. Wayde van Niekerk's career is defined by numbers that almost don't belong together. His personal best in the 100 meters is 9.94 seconds, a time that would qualify him for any world-class sprint final. Over 200 meters, he clocked 19.84 seconds, joining a select group to ever break the 20-second barrier. In the 300 meters, he ran 30.81 seconds, a national record and one of the fastest times ever recorded. Each of these marks, on their own, would mark an elite specialist, but Van Niekerk did them all while holding the world record in the 400 meters. The usual boundaries between pure sprinter and one-lap specialist blur in his resume. Michael Johnson, the gold standard for 400-meter dominance, never broke 10 seconds in the 100 meters or 20 seconds in the 200 meters. Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, never attempted the grueling 400 meters at a world level. Only Van Niekerk holds credentials under 10 seconds in the 100, under 20 seconds in the 200, and under 44 seconds in the 400. That combination proves a rare hybrid, built for both speed and endurance. Coaches around the world watched Van Niekerk's Rio run and saw more than a record. They saw a new template for what a 400-meter athlete could be. His ability to blend sub-10-second speed with the stamina to sustain it over a full lap challenged long-held assumptions about event specialization. At international symposiums, coaches debated whether the future belonged to pure speed or to the hybrid athletes who could attack the first half of the race with the aggression of a 200-meter sprinter, then hold form through the final bend. Training groups in the US, Europe, and the Caribbean began experimenting with faster opening splits, inspired not by data alone, but by the evidence of what had just happened in Rio. The ripple effect was clear. The range that Van Niekerk showed forced a rethinking of how to develop one-lap runners, with more programs seeking out athletes who combined raw acceleration with the ability to relax under pressure. The hybrid was no longer an outlier. It was the new aspiration. Today, Van Niekerk's 43.03 seconds stands untouched. No athlete has come within a tenth of a second since 2016. In a sport obsessed with marginal gains, that margin is a chasm. His run isn't just a record, it's a challenge. Greatness, it turns out, still sets the pace.